Hello, I'm Guy, and this is Guy Robot.
Hello! Well, I was going to be doing an unboxing on an Amiga 600 today. I got as far as doing the introduction, went to do the unboxing, and found out it was broken. So I'm going to do something a little bit different with it. I am, however, still going to talk about the Amiga 600. Without the fun of the unboxing, here it is. This was my third computer. I had my Commodore 64, my BBC-B, and then I moved into the 16-bit world, and I got this, the Amiga 600. Now, you've probably not heard of it. In fact, most people in the UK probably never even heard of it. Amiga were a brand of computers, certainly by this point sold by Commodore. They were really well known for incredible graphics capabilities for their time. This one, not so well known. The Amiga 500 was a massively popular machine that was in so many people's houses. It was also incredibly practical. Towards the end of the sales life cycle, Amiga decided to come out with a brand new computer for the home market. I believe it was in 1992. This is what they came up with. It is really small and really lightweight, to the extent that this has even been turned into a laptop by some people. There were, however, a few problems with it. The first problem was, it's pretty much the Amiga 500. They were still trying to sell like it was the 1980s and the 8-bit era, where you could just re-release the same machine badged differently. But by this point, competitors were coming out with really new and inventive stuff. So, they released the exact same machine all over again. Now, this machine came out too late. At this point, Amiga already had newer graphics card, better capabilities, but they didn't release them because this was going to come out. And they kind of got the market wrong. This was available with a hard disk. Now, this is a low-end computer for people at home who've come from tape drives, people like me. Who's going to buy a hard disk in it in 1992? And the answer is not many people. Try and find one of these with a hard disk in from new now and a 600 HD. You won't find it. Also, genius idea, expansion. So, there's a PCMCIA slot. I don't think I saw another PCMCIA slot for another 5 years. And that's because accessories were so expensive for them. Even laptops, you didn't buy PCMCIA. I think the first card I bought new was probably about 1998 or 1999. But here it is, in the Amiga 600 waiting for me. Other than that, there are a couple of other bits that were pretty cool on this. This one did actually come with composite and RF video output rather than just requiring the monitor adapter. And internally, this all uses SMD for soldering, so everything is surface mount rather than being through a hole, which is why this thing is so small. That and the fact they forgot to put a numeric keypad on. That annoyed a lot of people. I loved this machine. This was just awesome for me. It was such a step up on the 8-bit computers I'd had before. The graphics capabilities of it seemed amazing. And once you got up to the bigger Amigas, the desktop style ones, you could get co-processor cards that actually let you put Intel 8086, 8088 processors in your Amiga. So you could literally run a whole PC within your Amiga. And that just blew my mind for how phenomenal it was. But it turns out I was in the minority that liked this. And this means they're quite expensive now, because there aren't many around, for a not that exciting vintage computer. This one, which is filthy, and it turns out doesn't work, cost me £70, and I don't know what's wrong with it. However, what we're going to do now is something a little bit different than I originally planned. I'm going to open this up and see what's inside it. Now, I suspect I'm not going to see a lot, and even if there is, I can't fix it because it's surface mount. However, the first thing I'm going to try and do is I'm going to remove the, in effect, boot ROM that's in it. I guess the BIOS. If anything works in it, I should just get a big red screen being fed out, which means it's a ROM problem. If it's anything other than that, well, it's probably just the circuit board has died after these years, and I think I might see a broken capacitor or two when I open this. However, fingers crossed, it's just going to be a boot ROM, easy to replace. Failing that, I'm going to do something I have never done before after reading a really strange post on an Amiga forum. I am going to put this in a dishwasher. That's right, I'm going to dishwash a motherboard. But I'm also going to dishwash the keyboard, because this is not just filthy. I don't know whether this will work on camera, but filthy. really is filthy. I can sell this as parts, get the money back, and I've got another Amiga 600 to actually show you what you can do on an Amiga 600, which is pretty cool. If you put the slightly later ROM in this, you can get a newer version of the Amiga operating system from even the 2000s where development carried on in it. And you can get a web browser working in it. You can get IRC working in it. You can do more than you could on the PC that I recently ran in another one of my videos. So these are still pretty amazing for what they've got. Yeah, it's not going to be even anywhere near what a Raspberry Pi is. But the fact that it's still remotely usable, almost 30 years later, is something mind-blowing. However, first of all, I think we need to take this apart. So this is the first time I've ever actually taken apart an Amiga 600. All those years I had it, I was a bit too scared that I'd break it. However, since this isn't working, no fear this time. A few screws and a couple of ribbon cables later, and I'm back to what is actually a really tiny motherboard with a floppy disk and a hard disk caddy on top of it. A couple more screws and they're out, and we're down to a nice, really small motherboard. Take off the backplane, and we are good to have a look and inspect it. First thing I noticed was how rusty the top of the RF socket was. Unfortunately, due to my incredibly poor camera work, you can't see that here. I decided I would take that off, see if it helped, and no, it didn't. So the next trick was to take off the electromagnetic shielding, or at least that's what I assume it is, the big slab of metal that runs underneath it, thankfully on a plastic platter, and to start looking at some of the capacitors. None of the capacitors actually looked bad looking from the top, and to be honest, they didn't underneath. There was an awful lot of dust flying around here, but actually, the motherboard didn't look that bad. One of my first steps was to take out the Amiga boot ROM. Hopefully that was going to give me a big red screen saying it was just a ROM issue. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, which meant the motherboard was definitely broken. More than likely, it was the capacitors having dried up over time. At this point, I wasn't exactly filled with ideas of what to do next. What I wanted to do was desolder what I thought were the broken capacitors, even though I had no proof. However, not having all the right tools to deal with surface mount kit and not really wanting to break it further, I had to go away and do some thinking. What was I going to do next? So, I dismantled the Amiga 600. Once I went through dismantling it, as you saw on the video, I couldn't see any obvious damage. So I did something a little bit strange, as you might have seen if you've been looking at my Twitter feed recently. I put it in the dishwasher. Bear with me here. Now, water by itself isn't going to destroy a circuit board. Water and electricity, however, is a different thing. So I took everything apart. I put all of the individual components in the dishwasher and I gave it a lot of time to dry out, drip dry, make sure it's naturally dry. I have heard you can put the circuit board in a very low temperature in the oven, but I didn't go quite that far. Now, what were the results of this? I don't know if you can see the difference on camera, but it's shiny and white. It looks almost new. This is probably because as well as putting it through the dishwasher, I put some Vanish Oxy-Action tablets, which is basically ends up in hydrogen peroxide, along with the plastics. Once they've gone through the dishwasher in a bowl and left them outside in the sun for the day, that massively restored the colour of the plastic. But did it help? Well, no, but it didn't hinder. So this turns on no more than it did to start with. In fact, it's no worse than it was, but it's also no better. But I have managed to prove that I think the problem is the capacitors. Having run the motherboard through the dishwasher, I can now see some gunk around the bottom of the capacitors on the motherboard. The most likely problem was probably that this was a capacitor issue. It boots. If I put a floppy disk in, this will boot, it will start the piece of software, but there's no video output. And I've discovered now with some more testing, there's no sound output. So odds are it's one of or a combination of the capacitors controlling that area. And a preliminary look at the circuit boards tends to agree with me. So, the motherboard in this needs a recap. Right now, I don't have the right tool to do it properly, so I'm going to leave it. However, I have managed to clean this up fantastically, which gives me a wonderful enclosure, keyboard and other parts for a working motherboard. Two slight issues. I say slight issues, two fairly big issues. The spacebar and caps lock no longer come back up. And better than that, you might not be able to see it, but the spacebar is now a smiley face rather than a bar. Yeah, it turns out if you are going to dishwash plastics to clean them up, the dishwashing works fine, but you will warp plastic. For example, the rear trapdoor, also a bit warped. That now falls off far too easily. It is, however, the whitest plastic I've ever seen, so it depends how much you want to warp it versus how much you want it actually working. The flip side is, I have another Amiga 600 that's come. Now this one has never even had the warranty screw broken, which does lead me to thinking, do I really want to be the one that breaks it? Probably not. The wonderful thing about this one, if you ignore the sticky labels that are all over it, it's immaculate. There's literally not a single hair underneath any of the keys. And other than a bit of yellowing of the plastics, it does look immaculate. It's bizarre. And it works. That's the other miracle. I plugged this in and it worked straight away. So I have one fully working Amiga 600 that's yellow. I have one non-working Amiga 600 that's white. At some point, I'm going to do a transplant between these to get one working super white Amiga 600 and the other one I've got spares to repair. And this one also came with a box, only £99. So I'm going to do a separate video about actually using an Amiga 600 and what one is. That's what this video was supposed to be, but thanks to the wonderful, broken, rubbish Amiga 600 I bought on eBay, my fault I suppose there, falling into that trap, it has meant that this was mainly a taking apart and dishwashing an Amiga 600 video. So do let me know what you think. I'm not sure dishwashing things should be my regular slot, but if you are curious what it's like to put more 30-year-old computers in a dishwasher, then I could be the person for you. If not, and you thought this was rubbish, well, I really don't blame you. It's not the video I intended to make, but you might as well see as far as I got with it. What was meant to be a getting the Amiga 600 working was mainly a dismantling and washing video. However, I have proved that if you've got vanish oxy action and you don't mind dishwashing a computer, it will come up sparkly white. So, let me know what you think. Please subscribe if you enjoy this, and if you actually want to see me do stuff with the Amiga 600, don't forget to check out the next video that I'm going to do. And please leave your comments below. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Please check out some of my other videos and don't forget to subscribe.